All right. I don't know if
Yeah.
you heard that, but I think it's recording. Dude, thank you for doing this, first of all.
And listen, any way I can support.
Thank you. I just have like 10 questions for you.
Yeah.
Um, Let me pull them up. Right, so I mean, the first question I got for you is just where you got the name John Hope from. I did see an interview and see you used to be called Jeezy. They used to call you Jeezy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it started out my nickname, just my nickname just growing up, people would call me Jeezy or Harry Jeezy, you know what I'm saying? And so when it came time for me to like pursue music, I just naturally went with that. And then obviously Young Jeezy came out, but specifically like the whole idea at the time when I came out, it was during the blog era and there really wasn't much representation for Rhode Island hip hop. And so I was so enamored and so intentional about um representing Rhode Island and and things of that nature. So, hope is the state motto of Rhode Island. And so, I just I remember researching like Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx and recognizing that those are like stage names, that like Jamie Foxx's real name is actually Eric Bishop. Um and Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, like those are like stage names. And so I was like, I wanted to have like something with two syllables. And so I just came up with John Hope, just like that. Like, real simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then more on the Zane Butler media kind of stuff, like what like kind of inspired you to like create Zane Butler or like the company?
Yeah, it was really a lot of it derived from my personal experience. When I first started out, there was so many different iterations, but the first iteration of Zane Butler was like a label or independent label for me to put out my own music. And um when I first started out, I was like looking to get signed. I had signed a production deal. I had lived in Atlanta for a little bit. And so I had like these very like what I consider like false negative experiences. I mean false positive experiences where it looked good, but then you realize that it's not a good situation. And so after like bumping my head, I realized that, I wanted to kind of take control of my own destiny. And this is around the time like, DSPs, digital streaming platforms were sort of leveling the playing field between independent artists and major label artists. And so I just decided that I was just going to create my own company called Zane Butler. And the name of it is inspired by my mother. My mother's name is Zainab. So that's kind of where it came from. But it really was out of uh, out of a need to create my own opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what is your role within the Zane Butler team? Like in general?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of creative direction, um, executive direction. And what that looks like is like um, overseeing, whether it's creative aspects, working with different creators, like hiring different creators, um, the financial component, infrastructure building and capacity building, um, client relationships. Just when you're a startup, you're wearing many different hats. So, but I would just say, everything from day-to-day operations to actual direct creative outlet. So, providing more, working with potential clients to identify media services, um, creating passion projects that are sort of centered around my vision. Um, and then project management, myself alongside Melodine, just making sure that things on an administrative level are like operating, you know, accordingly. So it's just wearing like a lot of different hats, you know, executive director, creative director, at this stage, you know, which I appreciate at this stage, you know, I don't have like, a staff of 10 or anything like that, but, you know, generate good numbers, you know, so it's good.
Yeah. And so, as like the leader of Zane Butler, what like how would you describe your leadership style and like trying to like you have to manage groups of people a lot like with the Elijah film we did. It's like a lot of management with a lot of different people. So like how would
Yeah.
you describe your leadership style?
Yeah, so it's funny enough, I went to school I went to school for educational leadership and administration. And there are definitely different leadership styles that I was privy to. One of them that connected with me the most, and just given my sort of personality type, is distributive leadership. Distributive leadership is sort of this idea that you kind of I'm able to highlight people's strengths, put them in places of significance, where their strengths and their expertise are leveraged. You know what I mean? So I think for me, it's not a dictatorship. I work with people. I'm an active listener, and in that listening, I have a level of discernment to say, okay, well, this person would be fitting for this, you know. So it's a lot of like managing personalities and like um having a having a controlled ego. You know, I don't think in business that you have to completely remove your ego, right? I have 20 years experience. That means something. Um, I think you want to have a controlled or sort of measured way in which your ego can be present. You know what I mean? So for instance, um, I have no problem saying I don't know something. I have no problem saying that, you know, this is not my area of expertise. Where I'm very strong at is I'm extremely resourceful and extremely I am I think I have a great eye for talent. And so in doing so, I'm able to, you know, be strategic with my relationships, with my partnerships, um, and team building to be able to leverage that, you know, to cover to adhere to that void. Um, so I have a distributive leadership style. You know, at the end of the day, I definitely, my word is my, I have the word at the end of the day, but I'm um very understanding of how to put people in positions to win.
Yeah.
Where my ego doesn't flourish is like I don't really need credit. I don't care. I'm certain. I'm very secure in my accomplishments, my achievements, and you know um, who I am as a leader.
Yeah. Have you had like any kind of difficulties like working with people? I know like you work with a lot of people, right? So like do you have to work with a lot of difficult people and like how can you get around that?
You know, that's a good question. Yes, I have, but I because of experience, I think when we talk about the Zane Butler team, um, there is a direct team of people that I work with, sort of day to day. But then, like once we zoom out, there is sort of like a peripheral team where I have, you know, contractors and people that I've worked with literally 10, 15, almost 20 years. So for the past, I would say 10 years, I haven't had any of those issues because I have like the people that I have, that I have in place. In terms of I guess in terms of like clientele, trying to add, trying to explain to people, what certain limitations might be present within a project, or making, trying to um, explore different perspectives towards a particular goal. Yes, I've had difficulty with that, but again, I think this is where for me, um, I'm able to I'm able to pull proofs of concept, to support my stance. You know what I mean? So if someone has a strong disagreement, I'm like, hey, this is what's working here, or this is what's, you know what I mean? So in other words, I'm not speaking from a place of just like randomness, or or being arbitrary. Like this is proven to work. Um, and I also know when to find a happy medium. But yeah, when I deal with difficult people, I don't personalize. I don't personalize at all. For me, it's trying to make sure that, we reach, if it's a client situation, that we reach that anything I could do to help support their vision. But I will offer my perspective. And if they don't want to receive that, that's totally fine.
Yeah, and so it's kind of similar to that. With like the rise of things like social media and like all these online websites, things like Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, how can you see all these new trends coming up and how can you take them and kind of create new things like that? Kind of like how we were doing with the AI videos and what we're doing with like the music videos that you were sending me. Like, how can you transform that into stuff that you do, like the trends?
Yeah, well, I'm always having an open and innovative mind, right? And being a convener. For me, I'm really big on being an agent of harmony. Like, as long as I don't really care about, um, for me, it's about finding like-minded people, um if if they're going to, like, even if they're not as talented as the next person. So I'd rather work with someone who is um not talented, but has an open mind, has an innovative mind, likes to take creative risks, versus someone who is extremely talented but very much stuck in their ways. So I make that discernment when I engage people. And when I do, when I do make that discernment, after I make that discernment, I realize that um it's easy. It's easy for me to say, hey, this is the forecast. This is what's going on right now. Can we find some ways, like, what are some ways to make this part of our dynamic? And I think that that's just the way it needs to be, in turn, if you want to be relevant. I don't know if relevant is the word. I hate that because it's such a very convoluted word. But I think, like, it's very easy to be um it's very easy to be behind the eight ball in this ever-changing landscape. I mean, like, I mean, it's, there are trends that come and go. There are websites. I mean, one minute it's Vine, next minute it's TikTok, like, you know what I mean? Just like that. So, I think you have to have a level of openness, um but understand that, like, there's an integrity that's involved too. Like, I know who I am. You know what I mean? I know what I want. I know, like, and I will never like veer off from that, from an integral standpoint.
Yeah. And so
I
I know
know,
you've, sorry, you said what?
no, I was like, I hope I answered your question, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I know it's kind of a long and convoluted question, but
Yeah.
yeah, so I know you've worked at like a lot of places in your career. Like you were at PC for a while, and
Yeah.
now you're doing the thing at Zane Butler. Like, what is the proudest you've been of your own career so far?
The proudest I've been. I think the next moment, like the and that sounds like a Disney special, but it's like um knowing that there is intrigue and um interest, a demand for what I have to offer. I think that's what really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to date this, but tomorrow, right? Like I'm hosting a huge event and with and I get to speak with this president of the Boston Celtics. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I'm in rooms with the executive VP of Amica Insurance, right? Like these are like high level C-suite individuals. And so knowing that and I'm in the room occupying space as a peer. Not like I'm not an intern, like you know what I mean? I'm not like you know what I mean? I'm talking to them eye to eye, you know. So
Yeah.
so to for I think what I'm most proud about is that till this day, we're talking about 20 years, um, that my brand, my my insight, my talents are still being valued. I think that's the
Hmm.
biggest thing. Like, I don't want to put it on one particular event, but I think the common thread amongst all of them, right? You could say, oh, I did a multi-campaign ad for Cigna, and I was in Times Square. I did a commercial. I did a 90-second digital for NFL, Verizon, right? I could name those things, but I think like the common thread is that my gift and what my talent, my expertise, my experience was valued. You know what I mean? It wasn't just when I came out 20 years ago. It's like literally, February 25th to 2025. Like, I'm still active, you know.
Yeah.
So I guess the longevity, I guess, of it.
Yeah. And the fact that you can do what you do what you love tomorrow.
Exactly. You know what I mean? That's a bet. Listen, that's it, right? That's a bar. I could do what I love tomorrow. Like some people can't do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like some like that's a real thing. So yeah.
Yeah. So when you were starting the Zane Butler company, is there like any big lesson you learned? Like I know we talked about the net 40s and all
Ah,
that,
yeah.
but is there any other lessons that you kind of learned from that?
Yeah, I think the other lessons that I've learned is just like how to manage time, being able to dele to delegate is important. I'm such a when I first started, I was such a DIY, you know um sort of individual where I did it all myself, and I had to, now I know how to delegate. And again, sort of that using that sort of like direct team, but also peripheral team model. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
know, so I think delegation has been, my biggest development as a leader. Being able to, you know, put people in position, offload certain tasks that will allow me to kind of like operate at a high level, as opposed to being burnt out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And if you could go back in time to when you're starting Zane Butler, or even before that, is there any advice that you wish you could have given yourself from now?
Man. So if I'm hearing you correctly, what advice would I give to my younger self? Or like,
Basically, yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah. Like when you were starting Zane Butler,
when I was start,
or if you have something before that.
yeah, I would say when I was starting Zane Butler, I think I would say be more resourceful. Be like utilize your resources. I think for many small businesses, for many startups, um, you kind of have to be a little bit, not a little bit, but you have to be resourceful and and uh cultivate partnerships. Don't be so, okay, here we go. Don't be so fixated on networking vertically, but more horizontally. Like I wish I was so enamored or so fixated on like trying to like talk to the CEO, you know what I mean? But really the real value is talking to the, like the direct support who are, because you guys are both going to elevate, at the same time. So you know what I mean? Like you don't really have much to offer the CEO. You know what I'm saying? But you have resources, you have an expertise, you have an understanding that you can sort of exchange with someone at your level. You know what I mean? Who might
Mm,
have some other resources and other networks that you can benefit from. So I didn't realize that until years in. So I wish, I knew that a little bit earlier. Like network, kind of across because you're gonna grow together. And like when you grow together, it's just that much more meaningful.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you're starting it, were there any like rough patches, and how could you get through that? Or what
What?
did you do to get through that?
I think there's just a level of resilience. Yeah. Oh man, there's so many times where you wanted to quit. I mean, at my core, I'm a creative, right? I like so the business aspect of it, I didn't really have that all down, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Like, turning over a profit, um, understanding, how to, just the minutia of like understanding how to pay yourself, understanding how to pay out, like all those things I had no clue, just sort of the groundwork. And so there was a lot of like just trial and error. You know what I'm saying? Um, and in that trial and error, yes, I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit multiple times, multiple times. Like I think those feelings, I think we we tend to stigmatize and trivialize them, but that those are all a part of the journey. Like like that is those are all necessary things. What you have to be able to differentiate is knowing when to get up out of those feelings. You know what I mean? Like all those are honest and they're gonna happen, but you don't want to bask in that.
Yeah. And so I just have one more question, and it's kind of
Yeah.
just like throw out question at the end. Like, do you have like any final messages or tips or whatever for someone who would be looking to start their own multimedia company?
Yeah, I think direct advice would be understanding, research how to develop infrastructure, right? In a way that so that way you're sustainable. Most media companies, most companies in general, they crash out early, like less than 5 years. You know what I mean? So having a level of, infrastructure, I think that is super important. Like, like you might have the creative down, but understanding like, staffing, how to contract out, invoicing, like those types of, technical things, I think we tend to overlook. It's really not just about picking up a camera and just pressing a button. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
also like if that is all you want to do, then partner with someone who's a little bit more business savvy. You know what I mean? So I think just so in other words, know yourself. Know yourself, know what your capabilities are, what your area of interests are, and then whatever that area of growth is, find the necessary people to fill that void.
Yeah, someone like Mel.
Someone like Mel. You get what I'm saying? Mel is like, she's great. Like she's great. You saw her kind of and those things like they're not to be taken for granted. Like if you saw the way she was operating at Elijah, you know what I mean? Daily
Yeah.
conversations. Hey Mel, can you contact this like I don't have the time nor bandwidth to, you know what I mean? Because I'm trying to make a play over here. You get what I'm saying? So you need that. Like you need that type. And I think, a lot of people they want to do it all on themselves. So it's like, no, you'll burn out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I have for you. But I mean, thank you so much for doing this.
No problem, man. I hope it was insightful, man. And
Yeah.
any other questions that may come up, please let me know, bro.
All right.
All right. So I'll see you in half an hour. All
Yeah.
right, man.
I'll see you.
Peace.